So next we're going to talk about the interview done by Adam Driver on what show was it on? Was it Jimmy
The Rich
Fallon?
Eisen Show.
Oh, Rich Eisen Show. That's right, the Rich Eisen Show. And he made some interesting comments about the prequels and his particularly his character Kylo Ren.
Okay, I'm just going to read this real quick. Adam Driver revealed on the Rich Eisen Show that his arc as Kylo Ren in Star Wars complete. Boy, the editing on the internet's terrible. It says
Yeah,
completed
it's so bad.
changed.
So bad.
Completely changed. This is Variety.com too. Completely changed from its original plan over the course of his three films: The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker. So the gist is Kylo Ren's arc changed over the course. According to the actor, Kylo Ren was never supposed to soften up and be redeemed as Ben Solo. In fact, the original plan for the character was apparently just the opposite. Kyle Ren, it's Variety.com, Kyle Ren was supposed to loosen up, Kyle, was supposed to become more evil during the trilogy, not a conflicted anti-hero. The quote, there's a direct quote here. J.J. Abrams walked me through what he wanted to do with the character, but you had to sign up and be like, I'm going to do it. And once I did that, I went to London to star for pre-production. Driver remembered about accepting the role. And it's like, there's a tiny room down the hall. You can go in there and read the script. And so I was reading it for the first time. I had an overall arc that in mind that J.J. Abrams wanted to do. Driver continued. His idea was that Kylo's journey was the opposite journey of Vader, where Vader starts the most confident and the most committed to the dark side. And then by the last movie, he's the most vulnerable and weak. I'm talking about the original trilogy. He wanted to start with the opposite. The character was the most confused and vulnerable, and by the end of the three movies, he would be the most committed to the dark side. I tried to
Wow.
keep, yeah, I tried to keep that arc in mind, regardless if that wound up not being the journey anyway, because it changed while shooting. But I was still focused on that. Rian Johnson, he said, took Kylo Ren's original arc in a different direction with The Last Jedi, although it still tracked with the character. That wasn't the case with Rise of Skywalker. He says the last one, it changed into being, about them and the dyad and things like that, Driver said, and evolving into Ben Solo. That was never a part of it. He was Ben Solo from the beginning, but there was never a version where we'd see Ben Solo when I first signed up for it. Okay, so and there's been interviews with recently with Daisy Ridley where she admits that the first idea was that Rey would have a connection to Obi-Wan, but then they kept changing it up and changing it up. So anyway, any thoughts on that?
That's interesting. I wonder, like, how much did the Ryan Johnson's movie kind of, no, it didn't. I was going to say, how much did the Raylo shipping go into maybe fan service and trying to redeem
That's
Kylo
a
Ren
very
and,
good
and
question.
become Ben Solo by the end?
I
And I
think I
guess
think I think a ton.
Raylo stuff had already started with Force Awakens, right? For some reason, I
Yeah,
was
but it became
associated
insane. It became insane with the
with
Last
Last
Jedi.
Jedi. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, once you get that far with Last Jedi, I guess you can't go back. So,
yeah. It's
um,
definitely yeah. There's different directions you could have gone. They could have. Um, I don't know. To me, I don't like try to pass the buck or the blame to either more so to Abrams or Johnson for like whose choices were worse or whatever. It's just more evidence to me that
they didn't have a
yeah, when
clear
you don't
plan.
That's
yeah.
what I was going to say.
Yeah.
It's just more empirical evidence that they had no plan going into this as far as linking the
Mhm.
stories together. They're just throwing something on the wall and seeing what sticks.
I
And
mean,
for people
Abrams might have had a plan, it sounds like, but they weren't thinking of making the whole film trilogy cohere to one plan that all the directors would be privy to. It sounds like they were letting other directors do what they wanted once Abrams turned down the opportunity to direct the next film.
And I think,
yeah.
So,
and I also read an article last week, I believe it was, this kind of ties in together. And this was actually an interview with Ryan Johnson. And he said that the whole reason he even got Last Jedi is because he had approached Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm with his original idea of doing a Star Wars project. And she was basically, well, why don't you just do the next movie? As opposed to, why don't you do your own thing? It's like, hey, why don't you just do The Last Jedi? And he's like,
Yeah. And then
okay,
you can do your own thing after that. Yeah,
right.
which
Which is never going
still
to happen,
never gonna happen.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I just thought that was kind of interesting, and that definitely ties together. But yeah, he said he never went in with the intention of working in the context of that trilogy. So kind of
I think he's a
interesting.
Sith. I think he's a Sith, and he's got some kind of super mind trick ability. Because how easy? I mean, what a charmed life to go in and pitch an idea, and you get the next Star Wars movie, and then they sign you up for 3 more movies,
Right.
and they just and they go, oh, your ideas are great. We have no problem. Go right ahead.
Yeah.
And you're given total creative control and everything of a middle part of a trilogy.
Yeah.
Makes no
Exactly.
sense.
Exactly.
I don't, I think my problem is that Johnson tried to be an auteur
Hmm.
where it just didn't fit. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you want to challenge ideas and do your own thing. The middle part of the trilogy wasn't the right spot. And
Stylistically, you can be an auteur, but you've got to plot wise and character
Plot wise and
development
writing
wise, you've
wise,
got to
yeah.
have some consistency for,
continuity.
yeah.
It
Absolutely.
should be a pretty simple story. And I always suspected when they said Oscar Isaac was supposed to be killed in the first one, and then at the last minute, J.J. Abrams said, "Oh, I gotta wait for you to hang around," and then he becomes the third main character in the whole thing, just because Oscar Isaac got super famous. Then it's like
Yeah.
that just showed me it's like, and people that will argue, the original trilogy was constantly changed. Well, yeah, it was being created from scratch, and by a guy who only had like one studio executive on his side,
Right.
and constant risk. They're just completely different environments and different times and everything.
Sure.
But anyway, it's amazing. It's like more and more just seems to come out that, as we already have pretty much verified, all the people who claim there was trust the plan, there's a plan. It's all done on purpose. If I put foreshadowing for 10 different results and then pick one, that doesn't mean I had a plan, really. This is a rock solid plan. It just means I do foreshadowing for any possible thing that could happen in there.
Exactly.
But anyway, Adam Driver, it's funny that interview. If you watch it, he's really level-headed.
Yeah, he is.
He said the reason he almost didn't do it originally was because he was a Star Wars fan, and he was afraid it would be bad, and because they wouldn't let him look at his script, he couldn't decide whether do I want to participate in the downfall of Star Wars,
Right.
which I thought was cool. I've never heard him say that before.
No, I never have either. Yeah.
So
Yeah, very
no
cool.
animosity to him. He did he wrung the best, most
Absolutely.
Yeah.
juice he could out of whatever he was
Yeah,
given.
all the actors did the best they could with what they had.
I don't know that I blame anybody individually. It's
Yeah.
just something wrong when things go wrong at Lucasfilm. You got such a great property in Star Wars that you can make a lot of mistakes and it can still come out great.
Mhm.
Because there's so much goodwill and there's such a great universe to play in, and you
Yeah.
can fit, you have the money and the resources to fix a lot of mistakes and stuff, but a certain level of just rush. I think that's what it is. They're just running, trying to grab that dollar as fast as possible. Because Rian Johnson was working on his script at the same time they were filming the first movie, and
Mhm.
he wasn't working with anyone else. It's like,
Right. So how can they possibly connect the story?
that's
Yeah.
just rushed. It's just too fast. And I would have rather waited another year on each one of those movies and then get them closer to something.
Cohesive. Yeah.
Yeah. And it
Yeah.
wasn't. But anyway, I
Yeah.
thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
is interesting.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
if you haven't checked it out, it's available on YouTube. I'll put the link down in the description, and you can check out some clips from the Rich Eisen show with Adam
yeah, he's
Driver.
Driver's promoting Ferrari, that new movie he's
Yeah.
in. So if you go look for his, and Eisen got him talking about Star Wars for some reason, and now it seems like more things it's a little more lax. Like people feel like they've gotten far enough away from it where they can say some things about it.
Yeah.
Boyega, Driver, Ridley. So
Right. Exactly. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for stopping in, guys. We'll see you next time.
Hello there. Obi-Wan Kenobi here, or James Arnold Taylor, either or. Take your pick. And this is the Cantina Club. This is the show you're looking for. Don't move along. Stay here. Good stuff. Goodbye then.